Hello and welcome back. Today we are taking a look at the prerequisite test for topic 7 because we're moving into topic 7 and it is all about rational numbers, fractions and decimals and integers and whole numbers. And so we're going to be doing stuff with all of those things. And there are some skills that you definitely need to have had before we start topic 7. And after giving the prerequisite test, it was kind of obvious that not all of us have those skills. And so we're going to real quick take a look at all the things that you were asked to do on the topic 7 prerequisite test, besides tell me what class you were in. The first one we're going to look at is right here. And we need to convert this to a fraction that is greater than 1. You've probably heard it called an improper fraction. A fraction greater than 1 is an improper fraction. And here's the process that we need to do to take 2 5/6 and make it an improper fraction. Anytime you want to take a mixed number like this, and that is a mixed number because it has a whole number or an integer and a fraction. So we're going to convert that to an improper fraction or a fraction greater than 1. So here we go. 2 5/6. Step 1. You are going to multiply the whole number times the denominator. So 2 times 6. The whole number multiplied by the denominator, that's your bottom number in the fraction. 2 times 6 is 12. Now, after you multiply the whole number times the denominator, then you are going to add the numerator. In this case, it's 5. And 12 plus 5 is 17. Now, that's just a whole number. Now, you take the whole thing and you put it over your original denominator, 17/6. So, again, remember, I'm going to write this down. You multiply the whole number by the denominator, two times 6, and then add the numerator. That's the number that's on top. Add the numerator. And that was 5. And that's how we end up with 17. And then put that all over the denominator that you had. So 2 times 6 plus 5, all over 6. Okay, well, there you have it. That's converting a mixed number to a fraction greater than 1. Now, the next one, we want to convert this fraction to a decimal. 5/6 to a decimal. Pretty easy if you consider that a fraction is a division problem. A fraction equals division. So we are going to divide the numerator, that's the number on top, by the denominator, that's the number on the bottom. In other words, numerator divided by denominator, or it would look like this. The numerator goes on the inside, the denominator goes on the outside, and now you divide. How many times will 6 go into 5? Well, that's 0. And so we add a decimal here, we add a decimal there, and 0 here, and keep on dividing. 6 goes into 50 8 times. 6 times 8, now we multiply. 6 times 8 is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. I have a remainder, so I have to bring down another 0. I can just add as many zeros as I want after that decimal. And so I bring that 0 down. Now I divide 6 into 20. That is 3. 6 times 3 is 18. And I subtract now. 20 minus 18 is 2. I have a remainder. I have to bring that 0 down. And I divide again. 6 goes into 20. 3 times. And you'll probably start to recognize that this is just going to keep doing that over and over and over again. So we can say that 5/6 as a decimal is 0.83 repeating. 0.83 repeating. Now, if you haven't been writing this down in your math notebook yet, you should go back and start from the beginning and make sure you write all these notes down in your math notebook so that you know how to convert a fraction to a decimal and convert a mixed number to a fraction greater than 1. All right, well, now we are going to take a look at the next one, and we are supposed to solve 1 1/4 minus 3/4. 1 1/4 subtract 3/4. Now there are several ways that we could do this. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the new skills that we learned in the first problem, convert the mixed number to a fraction greater than 1. So I am going to multiply 1, my whole number, times my denominator. 1 times 4 is 4. And then I'm going to add the 1, which makes it 5/4. And now I have 5/4, which is the same as 1 1/4. 5/4 minus 3/4. Now when I subtract fractions, as long as they have the same denominator, if the denominators are the same like that, all I have to do is subtract the numerator. 5 minus 3, and that is 2. And then I just keep the same denominator. That 4 just gets to stay a 4. So it's 2/4. But this fraction can be simplified because there is a factor that will go into 2 and 4. So I am going to divide both of these by the greatest common factor of 2 and 4, which is 2. So when I'm all done, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and this in its simplest form is 1/2. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is super, super, super easy. All we have to do when we multiply fractions is just multiply straight across. If you know your multiplication facts, it's easy. 3/7 times 3/5. Multiply straight across. 3 times 3 is 9. And 7 times 5 is 35. 9/35. And there isn't a number that will go into 9 and 35. They don't have any common factors except for 1, so there's nothing to simplify. That's our final answer. Multiply straight across when you multiply fractions. All right? Well, number 4 was about subtracting a fraction from a mixed number that had the same denominator. Number 6 is about adding fractions that have the same denominator. Most people got this one right, but just for those who may not have, as long as your denominators are the same, as long as the number on the bottom is the same, you don't have to do anything except just add the numerators. Just add the numerators. 1 and 4 is 5. And the denominator is going to just stay the same. It's 11. So 5/11. 1/11 plus 4/11 is 5/11. That's it. It doesn't get any easier than that. However, for number 7, it's not quite as easy because this one we are asked to add two fractions that do not have the same denominator. 1/2 plus 2/3. The trick to adding fractions if they don't have the same denominator is you have to find the least common denominator. You have to find a number that both of these denominators can go into evenly. What's the smallest number that 2 and 3 will both go into? Okay, so the LCD, the least common denominator, between 2 and 3, well, we have to look for the least common multiple, the LCM, least common multiple. What's the smallest number that these will both multiply into? And in this case, it happens to be 6. Okay? 6 is a number that 2 and 3 will both go into. But you have to do some changing around. First of all, how many times 2 times what equals 6? Right? Because we got to make it into this 6 right here. 2 times what equals 6? Well, 2 times 3 equals 6. And since we multiplied the denominator by that, you have to multiply the numerator by that as well. And so 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/2 is the same as 3/6. Now on this next one, we have to ask ourselves, how many times will 3 go into 6? 3 times what equals this 6? 3 times 2. Now, since I multiplied the denominator by 2 to get this 6, I have to multiply the numerator by that same 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. So now I have 3/6 plus 4/6. And all I have to do is add the numerators, because now my denominator is the same. It's 6, and 3 plus 4 is 7. 7/6 is a perfectly good answer. If you want to change it to a mixed number, now remember, this is a good answer, but if you want to change it to a mixed number, you can. You just have to change it from 7/6. And remember that this is a division problem. 7 over 6 is 7 divided by 6. 7 divided by 6. 6 goes into 7 one time. 6 times 1 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. I have a remainder. Now, I'm not going to do the whole decimal thing with this because I want to change it to a mixed number with a whole number and a fraction. So this will be 1, because 6 goes into 7 one time, and I have 1 left over out of the 6. So 7/6 is the same thing as 1 and 1/6, and those are both good. Okay, well, we're on to number 8. We're making great progress here. 2/3 divided by 2/5. When we are multiplying fractions, the thing you have to remember is, what is division? I know you've seen it or you've heard it, but if you haven't, you're going to hear it now. Division, I'm going to write it right here. Division is multiplying by the reciprocal. Reciprocal. Multiplying by the reciprocal. And what does that mean? Well, what that means, as I'm going to show you, is we are going to change this from division, but we're going to keep the first number exactly the same. And we're going to multiply, instead of divide, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second number. And the reciprocal is just taking that fraction and flipping it upside down, kind of. So 2/5, the reciprocal is 5 over 2. Now, the reason that it's called the reciprocal is because if you take 2/5 and you multiply it by 5 over 2, you get 10 over 10 when you multiply straight across. And 10 over 10 is 1. A number's reciprocal is whatever number you would multiply it by to make 1 for a product. So now we know we are multiplying by the reciprocal. And now we just multiply straight across like we've already learned how to do. Multiplying straight across, 2 times 5 is 10, and 3 times 2 is 6. 10/6, and that's an improper fraction, and that's okay. But you know what else? We can divide by the least. We're going to divide by the greatest common factor, the number that will go into 10 and 6. What's a number that will go into 10 and 6? 2. 2 is the largest number that we can divide into 10 and 6. And so our answer ends up being 5 over 3. And that's a good answer. But if we divide 5 by 3. 3 goes into 5 one time. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. I have 2 left over, so this would be 1 and 2 thirds. 1 and 2 thirds. Also a good answer. Okay? Awesome. Now, not many people missed number 9 where we have to add decimals. The only thing you have to remember when you're adding decimals is you have to line up the decimal point when you do so. So 0.75 plus 1.23, you have to make sure that you line up those decimal places. Sometimes there isn't a decimal and you have to put one in to make it work, but in this case, they both have a decimal, line it up, and then add. 5 plus 3 is 8. 7 plus 2 is 9, and 0 plus 1 is 1. 198. 1 and 98 hundredths. All right. Okay, well, now we are moving on to subtraction with decimals. Same thing. The big deal is you have to line up the decimals before you do anything. So 1.53, subtract 0.35. Now, 3 minus 5. I saw a lot of people say that that's 2. 3 minus 5 isn't 2. You can't subtract 5 from 3. So we have to, they called it borrowing. We're going to regroup, right? We're going to borrow from the 5, and it changes from 5 to 4. And we move that 1 that we borrowed over here. It becomes a 10. So now 3 becomes 13. 13 minus 5 is now 8. And 4 minus 3 is 1, and 1 minus 0 is 1. 1.18. 1 and 18 hundredths is our answer. Okay, just line up those decimals and make sure you're doing good math. If you need to borrow, borrow. Don't forget about that stuff. Okay, now our next one here, we are multiplying decimals. Awesome. I'm going to go clear over here. Going to set this one up. Now you don't have to line up the decimals when you multiply. It doesn't make any difference because we're multiplying. But you do have to make sure that you are multiplying by the right things here. So we're going to multiply everything by the 5 that is in the ones place here. So 5 times 5 is 25, and I'm going to carry my 2 up here. Now I multiply 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 more is 12, carry the 1. And now 1 times 5 is 5, plus that 1 is 6. I don't need to put my decimal there. I'm going to put a 0 for my placeholder for the next row. And now I'm going to multiply everything times the 3. 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus that 1 is 7. I'm not carrying anything over now. And 1 times 3 is 3. Now you'll notice that the last number that I would have to multiply by is a 0, and I don't need to do that. But if that was a number that I did need to do, I would add 2 place markers, and then I would multiply everything by that 0. 5 times 0 is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, and 1 times 0 is 0. And then I add up all my numbers here in all 3 rows. I get 5 there, 2 plus 5 is 7, 6 plus 7 is 13, 1 plus 3 is 4, and the 0 is just 0. Now, here's the tricky part when we're multiplying decimals. You need to look at where were your decimals at. Here was a decimal here, and a decimal here. Now, how many digits? How many numbers came after each decimal in our problem? Well, let's see. We had 1, 2 here, 3, 4. So we have a total of 4 numbers after the decimal in our problem. So that means we have to have that many digits after the decimal in our answer. And so I'm going to go over and make sure that I've gone over 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put my decimal right there. So 0.4375 is our final answer. There are 4 digits after the decimal point, just like there were 4 digits after the decimals in the problem. And we're done with that one. Question number 12. You're probably going to think it's some kind of a trick question converting this number to a fraction. It's a whole number. It's a 22. How do you turn that into a fraction? Super easy. You're going to kick yourself for not knowing this one if you didn't. Put a 1 under it. That's it. Take a whole number or an integer, you turn it into a fraction, put a 1 under it. That turns any integer or whole number into a fraction. Just put a 1 under it. It's beautiful. All right. Let's look at this next question, question number 13. We are converting this decimal to a fraction. Now, this is 0.23. Okay. Now, the way you convert a decimal to a fraction, it's kind of all about how you say it. This is honestly, you would say this is 23 hundredths. 23 hundredths. And the reason that it's 23 hundredths is because there are 2 places after the decimal. And the 2 is in the tenths place, and the 3 is in the hundredths place. But we read those 2 numbers together, 23, and is 23 hundredths. Now, the cool thing about that is that 23 hundredths can be easily converted into a fraction. 23 in the top, 100 in the bottom. That is 23 hundredths. Very cool. Very, very neat. So that's all you have to do to convert a decimal to a fraction. How many places after the decimal? That's how many zeros you'll have in your denominator. For example, let me give you one more. If I had 0.475, that would be 475 thousandths. And why? Because there's 3 places after the decimal, 3 zeros in 1,000. Super easy, super, super easy. But the answer to number 13 was 23 over 100. Okay. Question 14, what place value is the 3? Well, let's see, where is the 3? The 3 is right here. The thing you have to remember about decimals, the first place after the decimal is the tenths place. The second place after the decimal is the hundredths place. And the third place after the decimal, that's the thousandths place. So, where's the 3? It is 2 places after the decimal, and that's hundredths. And the next question is, what place value is the 2? Well, the 2 is 1 place after the decimal, and 1 place after the decimal is tenths. The thing you can remember is that there is only one ones place when you look at numbers. You can have, let's say I had 857.392. There's only one ones place. There's no such thing as oneths. Okay? There's the ones place. The 5 is in the tens, and the 3 is in the tenths. The 8 is in the hundreds. The 9 over here is in the hundredths. Now I don't have a number in the thousands place, but I could put a 1 over here and say, well, that's in the thousands place, thousands. But the 2 is in the thousandths. But remember, there's only one ones place. You get tens and tenths, hundreds and hundredths, thousands and thousandths, and so on. All right, next question. What place value is the 7? It's 3 places after the decimal. 3 places after the decimal, that's thousands. Thousandths, thousandths. Okay. All right. Now the last question, you were asked to convert an improper fraction into a mixed number. And just you have to remember that fractions are division questions. So this is 18 divided by 5. Numerator divided by denominator. And when you write it As a long division problem, it's 18 on the inside. Numerator always goes on the inside. Denominator on the outside. Denominator is the divisor. How many times does 5 go into 18? Well, let's see. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. So that's too much. So 5 times 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. I subtract. 18 minus 15 is 3. I have 3 left over. So that would be 3 and 3, because that's how much I have left over. And 3/5. I keep my same denominator. 3 and 3/5. All right. If you have any questions about any of these, please feel free to ask at any time. Be happy to explain. That's all I've got. I apologize for the length of this, but it was important and it was necessary to get done. Have a great day. Don't forget to be awesome. I'll see you next time.